Hello everyone, my name is Yotam Amitai and I'll be presenting our work on automatic generation of flexible plans via diverse temporal planning. So let's dive in. Robots and robotic agents are becoming more and more prevalent in human everyday life. This means that they are required to address more and more problems in the real world. In the real world, we have a very hard problem for robots to deal with, the problem of uncertainty, be it an autonomous vehicle heading towards a busy junction, or even simply a robotic agent working with a human teammate, and humans can be very unpredictable and cause much uncertainty. We advocate using flexible plans with choice formalism for dealing with this uncertainty. This formalism encompasses multiple possible solutions to the same problem and allows the agent to navigate between these solutions by making choices during execution. Specifically, we advocate using temporal planning networks formalism, TPNs, which were successfully demonstrated in human-robot teamwork using the Pike executive program that unifies intent recognition and plan adaptation and allows the choice of which decisions to make during the execution. So at this point, you should be asking me, Yotam, you've shown us that there's a framework that has proven itself and even an executive program that knows how to run this framework. Where do you step into this picture? So actually, the reason this method isn't common practice is because generating TPNs is a rigorous and manual task that is required of a domain expert that needs to connect all the different solutions and construct these decisions for the robotic agent to have. And it's very hard. So in this work, we describe the first method for automatic generation of a TPN through plan merging. A bit of background, we'll be tackling the problem, a temporal planning problem in PDDL, described in PDDL 2.1 formalism. I believe most of you are familiar with it, so I'll only add that as opposed to the classical setting. In temporal planning, we have durative actions, which are not instantaneous, and they take time, and the solution isn't a sequence of actions, it's a schedule mapping actions to the time of their occurrence. Temporal planning networks build upon a commonly used framework for temporal reasoning called STNs, simple temporal networks, and they add decision nodes and constraint labels, which are conditioned on the decisions that were previously made. And that's what it adds to the STN. It's helpful to think of a TPN as a graph in graph notation where nodes are significant occurrences or time points happening during the execution, during these plans. And they're connected by time constraints and activities or actions. Another field that we make use of in our work is diverse planning, whose purpose is to generate dissimilar solutions for the same planning task. There's plenty of literature available on diverse planning for the classical setting, but unfortunately, none for the temporal planning. And so the first thing we do is we adapt an existing diverse planning method based on top K planning to the temporal setting. Let's state the problem definition. Given a temporal planning task defined in PDDL 2.1 formalism, we want to generate an automatic process for constructing a good TPN. The notion of good will be described in a couple of slides. Our approach. We describe an approach based on merging diverse plans. First, we want to obtain our diverse solutions, identify points between these solutions that can be merged together, and then choose which of these, which of the points that we found which we can merge, which should we merge. And that we will do using a constraint optimization problem. The result will be a single TPN embodying all the original solutions that we found from the diverse temporal planning, and in addition, possibly more solutions, which we will see how this can be. We want in this work to create the smallest possible TPN. That is the notion of good that we have chosen for this work. Maximizing the number of points our process merges along the different plans allows us to have a smaller TPN, and which intuitively encodes all the original plans more compactly. It has more connectivity, allowing the agent to have to navigate more easily between different solutions, and it's easier to communicate a smaller TPN to a human counterpart. The first challenge we had to deal with was how to obtain these diverse solutions in the temporal planning setting. The problem with temporal plans is that they aren't sequences of instantaneous happening, which will denote IHs. Thus, the top K approach doesn't apply directly as we would have liked. And our solution to this was treating the derivative actions in the temporal setting as snap actions, meaning each action is split into a start action and an end action. And thus, they do behave like instantaneous happenings. I encourage you to see the full compilation in our paper, as this doesn't do it justice. So let's give an example of a step-by-step how our process works. We obtain diverse solutions, and then we construct the naive TPN, meaning we merge the initial state and the goal state of all the solutions that we found. This is always possible, meaning that we can always generate a TPN given that we've obtained those dissimilar solutions. The naive TPN is equivalent to our agent choosing one decision at the beginning of the execution of which path, which solution he wants to follow, and then following it till the end. It's not very interesting, but it allows us to always be able to output a TPN to Pike at the end of the process. So now we need to choose how, which time points can be merged, which ones do we want to consider. And we do this we suggest merging time points based on the validity of the solutions originating from their merge. We call this compatibility, and this means that when we merge two time points from different solutions, we might see additional paths in our TPN. Meaning, let's say this path wasn't here before we merged these two solutions. Okay, so that's so the validity of these new solutions is what we will check. This is how we will decide which pairs of time points we will consider merging. We note that once we merge more and more time points together, the operation of merging becomes an operation between sets of the IHs it represents. To deal with this and to widen and narrow our solution space, we defined merging transitivity notions, which are further explained in the paper itself. We denote M as a set of all compatible pairs of IHs we are willing to consider merging. And then we have the process of choosing which ones to actually merge, and this we do by formulating a constraint optimization problem, a COP, which we define its objective to be creating the smallest TPN, i.e. maximizing the number of merges. Let's talk about the results. We defined two criteria measures to display in our results. The first is the number of successful runs of our algorithm, and the second is the compactness score of each TPN that we generated. We define the compactness score by the number of time points in the output TPN compared to the naive TPN. And we define our successful run as a run where we were able to obtain the K-diverse solutions the initial K-diverse solutions that we wanted, and the output TPN is more compact than the naive TPN. This is our results table. Unfortunately, we don't have much time to go over them. I encourage you to see full detail in the paper itself. We define strict and loose transitivity and full and semi-compatibility. And that brings us to the summary and future work. So in this work, we've seen the first approach for automatically generating TPNs from a description of a planning task in PDDL 2.1. And we've adapted a top K diverse planning method to the temporal setting, thus creating the first diverse temporal planner. For future work, we plan on adding alternative optimization criteria, not only most compact TPN. For instance, we can focus on TPN that encompasses the most valid solutions, the most valid number of possible solutions in it. Thank you very much.